Welcome to the Texas Consilium Show. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. And my guest today is Gary Raba. He is president of Raba Kistner. Gary, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
But I first want to offer my congratulations on your nomination for the Texas Consilium Business Excellence Award. And thanks for taking the time to come on to the interview. Why don't we start with telling our audience about you and about your business, what it does.
Well, thanks. Love to. I am, as I like to tell, and my friends will say, the reluctant engineer. I started college in pre-med. Actually got bored with pre-med. Went to the college counseling, took some tests, and they said, well, why don't you just go into engineering? And that wasn't really the path I wanted to be, but mom and dad started this business in 1968. Dick Kistner joined about the 1970-71, right after Hemisphere. And so in this year, we're celebrating 52 years of service to this great state and to this nation. We are operating from New York to California. We're not known out in the marketplace as a very large company, but we just happen to be able to work on some pretty cool projects. Within our company itself, the four divisions, it includes everything from construction management, construction engineering inspection, project management, program management, owner's rep, and environmental services. Very pleased to be in Texas, especially during this time period of this COVID pandemic, but then also very fortunate to be in other states and learn really a lot about the business of engineering within the other states.
Gary, what is your vision for your business? Let's look 5 years out. Where do you want your business to be?
Well, it's great that you asked that question because we use what's called the balanced scorecard, and it is a long-term direction that the company has decided to take, and everything that we do is long-term focused. Now, had you asked us 4 years ago, 3 years ago, was this pandemic in our plan? And the answer is obviously not. But what we do is we look at, rather than trying to make investment decisions based upon short-term results, we look long-term. So as we continue to look long-term with our balanced scorecard, my theme is always getting better and grow. We have to get better as a company at what we do incrementally. People have to get better with their skill sets. They've got to do self-improvement. They've got to find ways to increase those skill sets, and then we've got to grow. We have to grow individually. Everybody that's a project manager or an engineer in training, my challenge to them is to grow yourself into the next generation of leaders. And likewise, we just have to grow the company based upon our core competencies.
Good answer. What makes your business special?
We don't do, like a number of the large civil companies, we don't do the civil design work. We're there at the early stages of looking at environmental impediments or constraints, as well as the geotechnical. So we're looking at the soil to determine what type of structure foundation needs to be done to support whatever infrastructure is put on top of it. But then when it gets to the design part, we don't do the design. We're really in the quality assurance and really being, if you will, the trusted advisor to the developer, the designers, and to the owners of these projects. So while on one hand, we get to work on some super large projects, multi-billion dollar projects, we don't really compete with our peer group, which lends itself to a really good collaborative working relationship. They know that when we go in and give a suggestion or an opportunity for improvement at OFI, that we're really not trying to cut their legs out from underneath them or diminish their stature in front of the client. We're just trying to do what's best for the project.
Now, the Texas Consilium Award for Business Excellence is based on criteria that encompasses areas like customer satisfaction, operational excellence, employee satisfaction, business performance, and more. Describe how your company exemplifies excellence.
That is something that we took a look at probably in about the year 2000, 2001. our first $1 billion project, we were required to put together a quality management plan under the ISO 9001 guidelines. And at that point, we thought, ISO, what is it? This International Standards Organization, what does 9001 mean? What we came to learn was that it is a disciplined approach to making sure that all of your services are of the utmost quality, but likewise, they meet the demands and expectations of the clients. And so we started the path, and we just got there this year, of being ISO 9001 accredited. That accreditation permeates every business activity that we do, from self-auditing ourselves to making sure that we're actually delivering what we're saying that we're delivering, to asking the client and getting customer feedback on our results, as well as what we produce, making sure that it's meeting their expectations, and then looking for all opportunities for improvements, OFIs, as I mentioned. We audit ourselves, and we go in and we take a very hard look at what our quality management system says we should be doing, and measure whether we're actually performing up to the standards of our quality management system. If not, we adjust and we change to either a market need, a client need, a project need, a technical need, but it's just a continuous loop of improvement. And I think that's been one of the key things. We instituted it. We used to always like to say we were ISO compliant, and now we're ISO 9001 accredited, which means we have passed an external audit to ensure that we're actually meeting the requirements of all of ISO 9001.
Congratulations. And I know it wasn't an easy thing to get. Now, if you're speaking to an audience of Texas business leaders, and they're wanting to improve their own businesses and leadership skills through, maybe the eyes of what you've seen, the journeys that you've made, what lessons that you've learned would you like to bring to them?
Probably one of the biggest things, I didn't know the words I was looking for until I just got finished reading a book, The Infinite Game. And it talks about finite and infinite horizons of actions. Somebody that's looking for quarterly results because they're publicly traded, that's finite. Somebody like us, quite frankly, that's looking at just a balanced scorecard, so it's a long-term direction and strategy, it's an infinite. It's just a process of continually getting better and continually growing incrementally, but not looking at short-term must-have results. It's kind of, I give the analogy to the railroads. If the railroads a long time ago had figured out that they're just not into choo-choo trains and rails, if they figured out that they were really into transport and moving things, they might be today's largest automakers rather than what we have in the big three or big four in worldwide. Likewise, as a company, if you're so focused on the day-to-day operational, the finite elements of your business and your business operations, and you're not looking at the long-term horizon, you're going to lose market share. You're not going to get better. You're just going to be, you might get a little bit of efficiency in producing what you're doing day in and day out, but it certainly isn't a long-term strategy. So for us, that has been very key. We looked at our business development, how we do our marketing, our business development, our sales. And really there were three different business models for that. One was do it cheap. Everybody can think of the national chain of store that says always lower prices. You can be like Apple and be high on the technology screen, always producing the next biggest thing. Or you could be a customer intimate business model, wherein you're really not only building a multi-level relationship within a client base or an agency or whomever or whatever, but you're also, as much about their business and you're understanding what their day-to-day pressures are so that you can be anticipatory of what their future needs are. I tell my peer groups all the time, look up. Because if all you're doing is looking down at what's happening on a day-to-day basis or on a finite time frame, you're going to miss the market moves around you, and it's going to endanger your company.
Good words of wisdom. What are you doing in the way of social responsibility, giving back to the community?
Well, we've got, we talked about it a little bit before we started. We've got so many things. All of our offices do something. In the valleys, it's the empty bowls where they're making and creating and raising money to feed some of the homeless people, as well as just to feed some of the other social services with foods and implements to be able to do that. In San Antonio, one thing that's really close to me is Heavenly Peace. Sleep in Heavenly Peace is something that started in Idaho. It's an all volunteer basis, but we build bunk beds for kiddos that don't have bunks, don't have a place to sleep. They're sleeping on the floor in their house. You go back, all you got to do is just do light research, and you'll see that a good night's sleep is so important for an adolescent in their learning. And that is such an easy thing to do, is to gather people together to build bunk beds. In Austin, they do something for the American Cancer Society and breast cancer awareness annually. Houston's got 4 or 5 things that they're doing. We produced some video and some films to encouraging kids to get into the science and technology and engineering and math, the STEM program, support the STEM program. And it goes on and on. And I think that the key thing that I've learned now is that those little contributions back to your community may not provide any increase in your margin, but what it does do is it makes your employees feel good about giving back to the community of which they belong. And everybody needs to have that feeling. Everybody wants that feeling.
Well put. I agree with you 100%. What about your legacy? Have you given any thought to that?
That's kind of like the old Covey question. What do you want your headstone to say after you died? What kind of a guy were you or a gal were you or whatever it is. So, the key thing for me is I'm second generation leader in this company. So mom and dad started in 1968. I took over 15 years ago. We're in a leadership transition, so that at the end of this year, there'll be a new president step in. And to me, that has just been a goal of mine for the last 5 years. Is to prove that we can go to the third level of leadership. When you take a look at most companies, small businesses around the country, that second generation typically messes it up. Well, we haven't messed it up, but we've almost tripled our size. And so what my legacy would be is, he was such a good steward of the 600 plus employees of the company and the clients, and that it continued to thrive and grow.
Great.
Sounds a little selfish, but
no, but it's your legacy. So
I just want it done. I want to see it through.
Well put. Well put. All right. Thanks for being a guest on today's show. Stick around. I've got a couple of more questions for you for the questionnaire board. Okay.
Super. Thank you.